and welcome to my kitchen. Technically, this isn't actually my kitchen, and the reason for that is because my kitchen is a disaster zone, and it's not fit for a video. So today, I'm going to be showing you how to make tuna casserole. It's a recipe that my family and I really enjoy to eat, and it's actually really fun to make, well, in my opinion at least. So I will show you the ingredients first. So the first thing you will need is 1 cup of either peas or corn, or half a cup of one and then half a cup of the other. Personally, I do 1 cup of each because my family always has a double recipe. For milk, that's the next thing that you need. For a single recipe, you only need half a cup, but for a double recipe, you'll need 1 cup. This is some simple cheese. It's just a mix and it's a blend that you can grate yourself, but I got pre-grated. For the single recipe, you only need 1 cup, but for a double recipe, you'll need 2. The next thing that you will need is a cream of vegetable soup. For a single recipe, you only need 1 can of either broccoli, mushroom, or celery. For me, since it's a double recipe, I use 2, but for a single recipe, you only need 1. The next thing is tuna. Dried white tuna, flaked white tuna. You will need 2 cans for a double recipe, 1 can for a single recipe. Over here, I have 4 celery stalks. That's for a double recipe. For a single recipe, you only need 2. And you also want some paprika, but technically it's not mandatory. It's just a little sprinkling on the top later. And then finally, you'll need 2.5 cups of dried egg noodles for a single recipe, and 5 for a double recipe, 5 cups. But for me, I just did an approximate because I know that I always eat it for this amount. And yeah, those are the ingredients. You will also need a giant mixing bowl for all the stuff. You will need a knife to cut the celery, and you will need a stirring spoon to stir the stuff, unless you don't want to use one, which then you can use your hands. But if you do that, I advise you to wash your hands first. Let's start. Don't forget to preheat your oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit, not Celsius. So just go like that, and you preheat it. As you can see, I've cleaned up my kitchen a little bit, so I moved in here because I need to use the stove. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take a big pot of salted water with a little bit of oil, and then you're gonna take your noodles, and before you put your noodles in, you gotta bring the water to a boil, as you can see. And then you will take your noodles and then put them in. There we go. And then you will set a timer for 8 minutes. And then put the lid back on and let it cook. And let it cook until it boils for like around 8 minutes. So I put the lid back on because when I put the noodles in, it stopped it from boiling. So once it boils over again, you can take off the lid and turn down the heat a little bit. And you should try to keep it at a resting boil, a rolling boil. And you can just stir it so that the noodles, they don't stick together. And then you can just stir that a bit and just wait. And then you can wait for the 8 minutes to be over. So while you're waiting for the noodles to boil, open up the cans and take the tuna ones and drain them and pour out all the water. Hold on one sec. That one's not as. And so just pour out all the water from the tuna, and then once that's done, move on to the next step is to get the ingredients and put them into your bowl. So the very first things that you gotta put in are the soups and the milk. The reason for that is so that you can make the soups less chunky. Wow, that came out a lot easier than I thought. Also, get a spatula if it doesn't come out quickly. Okay, I'm just gonna... That was also extremely very well. There's still just a little bit left in here. So I'm gonna use my spatula to scoop the last bit out. Okay, the next thing that you will do is grab the milk and pour it in here. And while you pour it, you want to stir it. Once again, the reason why we're mixing this is because we want the soup to be less chunky. So, I'm just gonna mix this up. Once you're done mixing it and making it less chunky and more like a bit of a liquid, you will put your vegetables in. So, starting with the corn and or peas. Just put that in there. One sec. Scoop out the corn. And then next, with the celery, which should be thinly cut, like this. You can just push that in. And then the last thing that you put in is half of your cheese, which for a double recipe is 1 cup, and a single recipe is half a cup, and then your tuna. So I'm just gonna put the tuna in real quick. Sorry about that. Somebody was cutting their lawn. So once you put all the vegetables and tuna in, you take half of your cheese. So for a single recipe, half a cup, and a double recipe, 1 cup. So I'm just gonna try and take the right amount and leave. There we go. Once you've done that, you mix it with your wooden spoon. And if you do want to use your hands, I suggest using a spoon, but if you really want to use your hands, you can. Just a warning, it is extremely cold. And yeah, so you mix this up, and I will be back once I'm done mixing. So the person started cutting their grass again, so I had to move in because I have a little bit of space. So next you're going to want to add the noodles in. Okay, so take the noodles, just bring them in like that, and then you're going to fold the noodles. For those who are unaware what folding is, it's where you scrape across the sides and bring kind of like to the center or like to the middle. And you just do that and you just keep folding until the noodles and the sauce have been completely combined. Now that I'm done folding, well, this is what it should look like once they're done. What you want to do is take a spoon like this, and it can be something similar to this. It doesn't actually have to be exactly like this. And you scoop it out and put it into a casserole dish. For me, I have 2 because once again, it's a double recipe. For everybody else who's doing a single recipe, you only need a smaller one. Now that I've put all this stuff in the casserole dishes, I'm gonna take that last cup of cheese, or for people who are doing a single recipe, half cup of cheese, and just kind of take it and just sprinkle it across until it's covered. So if you like it a little cheesier on the top, you can add some more cheese, which I am doing now. And then once you are done adding all the cheese, which you put more depending on how much actual noodles you put on, and make sure that you get all the edges. You don't want to leave any part uncheesy. Once you get all the cheese on, take the paprika from before and just sprinkle it on top. A little bit all over, you know. And then you put it in the oven, the preheated oven, for 20 to 25 minutes until it is sizzling and bubbling. So I'm going to just put this in there, and then grab this one, slide this one in there too, and put on a timer for 25 minutes. And I will be back when it's done cooking. Now that the timer is off, you take out the newly made casserole. And this is what it should look like. I'm just grabbing the second one. Close this up. And here is the second one. Voila. And so if you've taken the time to watch this and you actually made it, I hope you enjoy it. If you do, you can tell me if you liked it or disliked it or anything like that. But voila, food is ready.